Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We have two outstanding poets with us today, Jeanette Clough and Mariano Zaro. Jeanette will read first and then Mariano. Jeanette Clough is the author of 4 books of poetry. Her poems received awards from the LA Poetry Festival, Findom Millennium, Ruskin Art Club, and Rainer Maria Rilke International Poetry Competition, and a commendation from Aesthetica Creative Works in the UK. She was also artist in resident in Joshua Tree National Park. A native of Paterson, New Jersey, Clough holds an MA from the University of Chicago and worked for many years as an art librarian at the Getty Research Institute. I love her new radiant book, Fire Roulette, from Coanga Press. Here's a brilliant poet, Jeanette Clough.
Well, thank you, Harry. I'll be reading mostly from the book today, and because it still seems sort of new. It's 4 months old? 4 months in the world, yeah. So I'll be reading most of the poems from there, and then 2 or 3 others that are not in there, and some which are quite recent. So I'm going to start with limits. She does not cut her hair. She does not wear a hat in the sun. She eats too many cookies. She experiments with cooking rare beef. She sets her alarm for 7 in case she sleeps past 5. She dusts quarterly. She refuses to converse by pantomime. She hates Punch and Judy puppet shows. She likes orange marigolds and late Renaissance secular madrigals sung a cappella. She is good at waiting. She is good at listening. She is good at things that almost no one cares about, like identifying the city where a coin was minted. She is bad at portion control. She is bad at understanding someone who has never spoken to her. She climbs to the top of high buildings. She drives across the salt flats' blinding white glare. She is good at starting over. She is good at starting over again. She carries a bright red purse with matching patent leather 4-inch heels. Visual migraine. A glittery shape sparkles on the kitchen cabinet. A rough spot, or my retina shedding bits of itself with regrowth. I close my eyes. The scintillating clump of foil takes over the left eye, transforms into random bars of blue, then morphs into a silver angled void where the iris would be. Behind the right lid, an undulating mix of green and yellow stalks ripples and twines like an underwater pastel landscape. Both eyes are closed, 2 scenes at once, both open, utter blackness. I am abruptly, inexplicably blind, and this is all I'll ever see, an amalgam of colored shapes whose motion only stops when my eyes open to an inky shade pulled over the world. For 10 long minutes, I rationalize, try to relax and enjoy the show, grateful for what I will have, sight reduced to abstract paintings. The left eye's zigzags unhasp, and angle by angle erased to their starting point. The scene to the right dissolves into the sable curtain of a closed lid. No more supple limbs of an underwater forest in the sun. Incomprehensible reprieve and distrust. I drive myself to the eye clinic, no appointment. You've described the classic visual migraine, the retina specialist says. I have them too. He adds, there is no treatment. What if I'm driving, I ask. Just pull over, he says, until it is gone. This is the title poem, I suppose, of the book, which is Fire Roulette. And the name of the poem is Fire Roulette. Roulette is played by trigger-happy wind that carries sparks to desiccated fuel. A flaming skull of fire launches ash. The lethal embers carried through the air are infiltrating timber in their path. Roulette is played by trigger-happy wind that hits its mark and burns a canopy. The branches, leaves, and trunk go up in smoke. A flaming skull of fire launches ash, ignites my thirsting space. The driving thrust that lights a match, familiar brazen risk, roulette a game of trigger-happy wind. A company of fighters puts it out, their arms around the house to help it stand. A flaming skull of fire launches ash. The haze will shroud my mind's aridity. First, douse the cinders so they do not catch. Roulette is played by trigger-happy wind. A flaming skull of fire launches ash. Starling outward flight. I doze the days and doze the night undone. Much fretting in between and surfacing before the journey's through. I stray quite far, initiate, revivify, regroup. Then wakened by the frequent dream, again I doze the days and doze the night undone. My copper canisters have nothing stored inside. The birds of paradise bloom gray. Before the journey's through, I stray quite far for sugar, flour, coffee, tea, and spice that may beguile. My starling outward flight undone, I doze the days and doze the night in naps of sleep, find bits of truth to make scenarios I want that cannot be. Before the journey's through, I stray quite far. Not sunny, even dim. I do not want to rouse. I recognize I've been the dupe. Undone, I doze the days and doze the night. Before the journey's through, I stray quite far. This one is about scuba diving. Drift dive. I'm sorry. Drift dive. I exist in a shallow current that hugs a submerged cliff, and beyond is deep blue sun inexplicably exquisite that makes me want to breathe water. The drop-off cresting overhead is an underwater waterfall that would pull me away and drive me down in a rush, sure as force and gravity. I don't weigh much. My body thinks, turns around, and swims directly into the current, face to face with another diver, slowed but still held by the oceanic stream, bumping the barnacled rock, glancing over my shoulder to be sure I am aligned with this string of divers. Some of them know what I am doing and keep an eye on me. Uncertain anyone would leave the reef wall to rescue me if I drift away, an undersea spacewalk gone wrong. So I work to stay with them, and with my small bulk resist the abyss. Our air supply drops as planned. We break into our original clusters of 2 or 3 and descend to a higher stretch, relieved from the threat of drag down into the deep. The expanse of bright sand below us is lit by a filtered sun that warms the shallowing water. A dog splashes into the surf to greet us. This one is called Venice Boardwalk, referring to the boardwalk in Venice, California, and which is just always full of very strange things. Venice Boardwalk. Freeze-dried, coiled cobras with shrink-wrapped jaws cover a table. The guest and I talk between long pauses when we take it all in. He is in town for a gig. We meet at the boardwalk because he has some extra time. The paper, he says, is full of real estate and cars. I finally found the crossword puzzle. I say, the Saturday paper is like that. A man wearing a sheepskin loincloth and balancing a long bow on his head proclaims the future. Vendors sell bent drug spoons with tiny beach scenes painted into each concave depression. Palm trees, gangly lifeguard stations, and the rumpled ocean playing backup. Outside Cafe Fig, wire baskets of fruit hang from the eaves. He buys a banana to appease his type 2 diabetes. I have tea. He looks up and says, "Are those wolves I'm seeing?" 2 wolves sculpted in high relief, rampant on either side of a pediment. Yes, I reply. We don't know why the wolves are there and speculate instead. He stops in front of a boardwalk synagogue. I ask if he wants to go in. He hesitates and says no. I wonder what surprises him more, the wolves or synagogue on the beach. We retrace our steps to the car, passing the loincloth prophet who spins us into a garbled version of the future. A man at the entrance juggles live chainsaws. Trophy hunting. The male elk gather at dawn, their low guttural voices enriched by sway and bend, twitch of nose and ear, their stomping dance, toss of head, their long, flexible tongues. The hunters staying in the rooms above me come and go at odd hours. Noble on elongated back legs with disproportionately small hooves, antler crown perfectly balanced on a strong neck, front limbs as weapons or lowered for speed. The hunters drive a camouflaged vehicle with an enclosure in the back for the carcass. The elk shelter in woodland bedding and ruminate the day's grass, sedge, and tree roots. Stuffed and mounted on a wall, thick maned throats, decapitated. They sleep only a few minutes to an hour at a time, watchful, vigilant, neither ornament nor meat. Uncommon bounty. The sky has been turning shades of slate for several miles with us driving under its lowering tent. An abrupt downpour cuts rivulets into the hardtack ground. We are surprised rain survives its descent through parched air without evaporating, to drop needles on the unflinching windshield that flicks them aside with wipers and speed. The other surprise is this rainbow over salt brush and stubble, the end of its spectrum arc pacing the car, as if to grant an indulgence, or simply to mark a gift of water in the dry place through which we pass. Freshening. Unlikely, though not impossible, to wake up by reason of anticipation. Say instead, I awoke from gustiness, mortal and restored by the first cross breeze after torpid heat and damp chills, every cloth undone. The cat, supple as curtains, slips among the floor-length shears, the room freshening, become unstale, whisked, the rooftop antenna shifting one direction, then another in the few hours before dawn. I will read one other short one from this book and then move on to a few other newer ones. Ardor. Pick a direction, left or right, to the street where, oblivious of traffic, ballet boys and ballet girls parade down the center line, swaying on bright muscled legs, roughing up their toes, brushing the asphalt with lamb's wool and sequins, with glossed elastic and satin ribbons, performing their steps with a sharp hunger that will solve every problem, with ardor hard as a rose-cut diamond set in platinum, in angles that reflect and will not, no matter what, be still. This first one is fairly recent. It is called The Glare of Public Day. Unless after time, south meets north, where the two for an instant merge before taking on each other's route. South going north and north going south, each driving too many miles in the wrong direction. Lead us not into the traffic of narrow lanes. Deliver us from desperate swerves. Left to the middle of the street or left to the edge nearest the double yellow line. The slow parade of cars, addled as a field of snow-dusted succulents. Or something else, another way of saying, perhaps a river pushing outward towards the bay, and the ocean heaving itself inward, hungry for cradling shores. This is where small boats capsize. Like a catch, the waters are pulled into bright common spikes of light. The glare of public day is blinding. Sirens rattling in the wind, streaks of parrot-winged cirrus washed with aqua blue. Onlookers provide parts of the story. The bones of fish swim across the sky. I spent some time in the desert and I wrote a number of poems that emerged from that. Refuge. By accepting what is found, cupboards with sardines and olive oil, candles melted into sculpture. The sea-bright mousetraps teach peace with a plastic device shaped like a house. And this house of whitewashed cinder block with a pitched beam steel ceiling stained mahogany. And one concrete floor painted cinnamon, the other pine, each an offer of smooth coolness extending to the veranda that wraps my facade and its loosely framed windows. I defer to the pale granite pluming dust at the other end of a mile-long desert access road I have missed or almost missed several times driving in. A motorcade of climbers come to practice cliff rescue at my outer boundary. Their orange and yellow shirted forms ascend and descend on ropes, far removed from my side of the glassy air, where small possessions are concealed in the chest, and where a few in the cabinet of my mouth are honey and spice. Disarrangement Motel. The trim is sandy blue, The sky is also blue, and the ground is sand. I try the door in my room's back wall and step onto a patio shared by all the rooms and patrolled by a gray and white long-haired cat. I wonder how far this patio goes. 4 steps broaden into a plaza with a 5-foot plastic tulip set between 2 skinny cacti. A life-sized synthetic bear on its hind legs, and white flowering ground cover whose name I want to know because it holds its own so well. Spiny lily trees, dressed for the occasion, infuse the Ocotillo night with their off-road joie de vivre and the science of spice. One image does not take the place of another. There's a key in my pocket in case the door shuts and does not open from this side, and I lose myself among the creosote. But the knob turns, and I dwindle into the normalcy of bent hangers, coffee maker, the fan only setting on the air conditioner whose draft ventilates my hair and pulls apart the strands like a night breeze disarranging crystals around a neon shard of moon that gradually wanes and blinks out for the night. I'll read the last poem in Fire Roulette, which is sort of an allegory about, I suppose, a combination of creativity and taking care of our environment. A story about pianos. A sea of asphalt is marked with 88 parking spaces. In each space is a player piano. The pianos start automatically, but never together or with the same music. They play morning and night, rain or shine. No one can stop the pianos or park their cars. A fleet of bulldozers pushes the pianos together and drives over them until they stop playing. The pianos go elsewhere. The pianos strike their 7 octaves 88, the pianos string their 7 octaves 88 times across a field. Each speck of the field has a sound to play. Samba, samba, hip-hop, jitterbug, waltzes, quadrilles, hula, clogging and crumping, composed from downpours, staccato hail, arpeggios of thunder and the silence of lightning. The lovelorn sigh of ladybugs, a basso profundo chorus of roots, cricket's fluty trill, the squeak of sprouting seeds, moth dust, broken quail eggs, a ring of standing stones, loose feathers, tufts of fur, all of it played together, dawn through dawn. The field is plowed under, sold in sawed chunks, or mowed, and soon can make almost no sound at all. The pianos go elsewhere. In the open sea, the pianos continually change direction. The upright player pianos crest a swell. Their piano wires split into currents, and the keys become foam. A dozen baby grands crash into the massive rock, and the harps inside enter the throat of the sea. The sea breaks and heals, then breaks again. The pianos play constantly. Nothing stops them.
Thank you, Jeanette, for such a fabulous reading. Your poetry is clear, precise, imaginative. You know, one of your poems, you use the phrase a smooth coolness, and that's what it is. And your use of language is superlative, and you have such great narrative strength. Could you, in 1 minute, before I introduce Mariano, just take the last poem you read. You said it was an allegory of sorts, and just tell us how you came upon the idea and how you put that poem together in 1 minute.
Oh, it took me much longer than a minute to write it. No. Okay. It has a long history. Well, I had been trying to write a poem about some water that ran just down into the ocean, and that wasn't nearly enough. And this was so long ago, I am not quite sure where the pianos came into my mind to add to it. And when suddenly it sort of made the land that this river that it had been going through go through stages where it went through to the ocean, and it was not succeeding really on the land. And instead, the music, whatever that comes with it, the piano, ended up in the ocean where it really could continue to be creative. The number 88 there was because there are 88 keys on the piano. And of course, because there's 88 keys, the piano strings are connected to the keys, so there's 88 of those. So that was just playing around with it a little as I was writing it. But I'm hoping that the environment anyway can adjust regardless of what we put it through. And I'm really not sure if that's going to happen. But I do think that creative thread that flows through all of humanity will, as long as we're around, continue to try to keep that thriving, and perhaps with that be able to solve the problems of having our planet wash away.
Well, that's beautiful. I love that poem. I love all your poetry. Thank you once again, the fabulous Jeanette Clough. And our next poet up is Mariano Zaro.
Hello.
Mariano Zaro is the author of 6 books of poetry, most recently Decoding Sparrows, What Book, Los Angeles, and Padre Tierra, Olifante, Zaragoza, Spain. His poems have been featured in the anthologies Monsterverse, Penguin Random House, Wide Awake, Beyond Broke, and in several magazines in Spain, Mexico, and the U.S. He is a professor of Spanish at Rio Hondo Community College in Whittier, California. Here's a superlative poet, Mariano Zaro.
Thank you very much, Harry, for your invitation to be part of this reading. And it is a pleasure also sharing the space with Jeanette. So just a little bit about my life in California. When I first moved to California, I was an elementary school teacher, and I worked with children for over 10 years. My opening poem is based on a memory from that time. The title is An Elementary School in Los Angeles After the Summer Break. There is no air conditioning, and I ask the principal for a fan. The custodian brings a fan to the classroom, but the fan is old, more like a turbine, industrial, loud, so loud I cannot hear the students when they read. I have to turn it off. We are all sweaty and sticky, and I tell the students we are going to clean the desks today, yes, with soap and water. Go to the sink, open the faucet, wash your face, get a paper towel or two, clean your desk or not, splash all you want, who cares? I go to Ernesto's desk, I lean over, and before I say anything, he tells me, I know I can't wash my face here, maestro, I know. Ernesto's left eye is covered with an adhesive patch the color of caramel. He is 10 years old. Ernesto went to visit his grandmother in the summer and playing with other children, playing with canes and reeds by the river. Something happened. Algo me hirió el ojo, maestro. This is what he tells me. Something wounded my eye. It was nobody's fault. And then he says, hospital, infection, antibiotics, speaking more like an adult than a child. He says, septic infection and surgery and second surgery, scarring, eye socket, moles and cats, temporary prosthesis and revisions. And now I have to wait for the permanent one, he says. I have to wait. The doctors are all very nice to me, very nice. And I still can do everything, maestro. It doesn't hurt. Today, I want to say what you told me in that classroom, Ernesto, so many years ago, that it doesn't hurt. I want to say it with your conviction, without blame. I think when you work with children, many of our own childhood memories come to life. And the next poems are based on childhood and adolescence memories. The title of the next poem is Anatomy and Color Pencils. In the school library, I copy illustrations of science books with tissue paper. You are not allowed to take these books home, but you can copy the illustrations if you are careful. I copy illustrations of insects most of all. First, I trace the perimeter. Insects have segmented bodies, jointed legs, and external skeletons. Then I trace the head, thorax, and abdomen, even the antennae and the coiled proboscis. It's difficult to draw the inner organs, brain, heart, digestive system. I transfer the illustrations to my notebooks, bring them home into my room, each body labeled, organized, immutable. So many times I try to label my own body, to be my own insect, my own entomologist. This is another childhood memory and involves my sister. The title is My Sister Holds My Hand in the Dark. It's not really a theater. It's a bar where young people gather. They put a projector on the counter in front of the tap. They turn the lights off. It's 1976. I am 12. My sister is 22. She takes me to see foreign films on Fridays. Her boyfriend buys me soda, popcorn. He smokes. Everybody smokes. He has long hair, wears a braided leather bracelet, silver and turquoise beads. This is one of those European movies, my sister tells me. Not a word to mother. Do you understand? This is the beginning of secrets. European sounds dark, disturbing, and you know that someone naked may pop up on the screen at any time. Not sure if you should bring your brother to these movies, the boyfriend says. I am here for the popcorn, I say. You know, he's not like the other kids. My sister tells him, this is the beginning of labeling. My sister holds my hand in some scenes, shards of glass in cries and whispers, the rape in To Women, when shallow rambling dances in the night porter. I want to be like them, I tell my sister when we leave. To be like who? She asks. Like the people in the movies, I say. This is the beginning of pretending. The next poem opens with a little section from Hamlet. Is King Claudius talking to Hamlet. King Claudius. Now, Hamlet, where is Polonius? Hamlet, at supper. King Claudius, at supper, where? Not where he eats, but where he is eaten. The title of the poem is Mouth to Mouth. We bury our dog in the back patio, my father and I, next to the wooden fence. The dog weighs 32 pounds, maybe 30 now. He lost some weight since he was sick. When we dig in the ground, we hit the roots of the neighbor's cherry tree. The shovel makes a hard noise, like metal against metal. It's cold on this quiet October morning. I wrap the body with a white towel. I make sure the towel has no stains and fully covers his mouth and eyes. We mark the grave with a cross made of small stones, 3 horizontal, 4 vertical. A crow lands next to the grave, starts picking the freshly turned soil. I wonder if the grave is deep enough. The rain will scatter the cross stones. It rains a lot in winter. Come summer, the neighbor will bring us his first cherries. We will eat the cherries, the sweet and tart flesh. I keep each bit in my mouth until it's totally smooth. Every fruit has its own soul, my father says. I will be somebody's food one day. We become the ones who have eaten us. The next poems I'm going to read are part of a manuscript that is going to be published in the fall by Walton Well Press. Walton Well Press is a small press that started in Los Angeles this year, and the poems you're going to hear now, they have references to science, to biology, medicine, sometimes linguistics. And some of these poems have been published in this anthology, A Shared Condition. This anthology was published a couple of months ago by Moontide Press, and also Jeanette is part of this anthology with other poets from Los Angeles. So I'm going to read a few poems that are related to science, to biology, medicine, linguistics, some of them more than others. The first one is On a Silver Platter. The world has become heavy, I tell my doctor, a door handle, a page in a book, an empty glass. I want you to see this, she says. She points at the black and white image on her computer screen. She wears a wedding band, but I don't want to know anything about her. I don't want her to have a husband, children, parents, siblings. This is your spine, she says, from C1 to L5. Do you see these spots? Yes, I say. What are they? Sadness, she says. Are you sure, I ask? It's a clear case, she says. The location, the shape, the density. Some patients present transparent sadness. We call it type 0, very difficult to diagnose even using a dye for contrast. Yours, however, is translucent, type 1, and is shaped like pellets, you see, very common in type 1. Type 1 stays close to the spine, may cause weakness, trembling, paresthesia, night sweats, sexual dysfunction. The last identified type of sadness is called inner type. It generates in the amygdala. It looks like a rain of electrical spores that can reach any part of the body. Does type 1 explain all my symptoms? I ask. We can't be sure, she says. The research is not conclusive, but sadness explains many things. What should I do? I ask. Some patients try to rest more and calm down, but sometimes they fall into hypersomnia, she says. Balance is everything, she adds. Some patients cry. Some play sports for dopamine release. Some listen to music, Bach, most of all. I don't like sports, I say, but I like Bach. What do you do, doctor, with your own sadness? I ask. I just keep plowing, she says. Will I improve? I ask. You will, she says, but there is no cure for sadness. It stays with you always. What about the future sadness? I ask. We will cross that bridge when we get there. Do you pray? Meditate? She asks. Not really, I say. How can the body function with all this sadness? I ask. Nobody knows, she says. But some scientists theorize that the body wouldn't be able to function without sadness. Just a hypothesis. Do you think we could survive a lifelong load of sadness delivered in a single day? I ask. She plays with her wedding band. Imagine your sadness, doctor, all at once on a silver platter, I say. All at once, she says, on a silver platter, like the head of John the Baptist. And the last, I have two more poems. The next one is called Vaporetto. You know that Vaporetto are these little boats in Venice, Italy. And in this poem, I collect certain terminology from medicine. Vaporetto. It's late, and we take the last Vaporetto to go back to the hotel. We will be there in no time at all, I want to say, but I don't say anything because we are not talking much today. After a couple of minutes, we realize that we have taken the wrong Vaporetto in the wrong direction, that we are trapped where we don't want to be. You remove your small backpack, drop it on the floor. I lean my forehead against a window pane. The glass is wet, cold. Our sense of touch is controlled by a network of nerve endings and touch receptors in the skin known as the somatosensory system. There is no place to sit. We are next to each other, standing unstable. There are mechanoreceptors for movements, nociceptors for pain, thermoreceptors for temperature, proprioceptors for location and position. I try to caress your neck, you move away. I wonder if there are receptors for the skin to say how it wants to be touched, receptors for repulsion. And this is my last poem. And thank everybody for being here today, and thank you for the invitation. The title of this last poem is Thermostat. Thermostat. Turn down the thermostat. It's so hot here, my mother says. She is sitting in a wheelchair near the window. The thermostat is a white plastic box on the wall. It has a small digital screen, 2 buttons, the shape of a triangle, plus and minus, a dial with small indentations, and the on-off switch. It doesn't work. The nursing home has central heating, but you cannot control it from the bedrooms. Are you my son or my grandson? How old are you? Are you my son, the one that lives far away in that faraway country? Why don't you want to have children? She asks me. It has been snowing all morning, just stopped. Look at the snow, she says, so clean. I am reading a brochure the doctor left earlier. Brain cells lose their ability to communicate with one another. 2 abnormal structures called plaques and tangles are prime suspects in damaging and killing nerve cells. Let's go outside, my mother says. We cannot go outside, mother, in this weather, I tell her. At least open the window. I cannot breathe, she says. Plaques are deposits of a protein fragment called beta amyloid that build up in the spaces between nerve cells. Tangles are twisted fibers of another protein called tau that build up inside cells. Take your children to the park. Play with them, she tells me. Snow is wasted when you don't have children. Open the window. I want to feel the cold. I don't think we can do that, mother. You may get sick. Who cares if I die today or tomorrow? Open the window, she says. Just for 15 seconds, I say. I hope they don't see us. Newer research suggests that this type of brain disease is mainly an autoimmune disorder. I take the bed's comforter and swaddled my mother, wheelchair and all, like a cocoon. 15 seconds, I say. I open the window. The cool air enters the room like a giant, like an ice river. 15 seconds, I say, and we count together, whispering, and I close the window. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariana, for such a transfixing poetry reading. Your poetry it's personal, it's passionate, erudite, and it's transcending. And there's a tenderness in your poetry too that I love. When did you write your first poem?
I wrote my first poem when I was very young, and we gathered. I am the youngest of. I have 3 sisters, and we used to write letters to other relatives. So my first poem was dictated to my sisters. I said, "Do you mind writing these little lines to my aunt who was living on the coast at the time?" So I remember I have this memory of dictating maybe like 3 lines to my sisters in a letter. That was my first memory of a poem. And then I wrote poetry when I was in college. Yeah, but I didn't take it very seriously.
I love you writing about your family. That's gold. What is it that attracts you to the poetry form?
Excuse me?
What is it that attracts you to the poetry form?
when I was in college, I experimented with short stories. I did poetry. I had no talent for short stories, so I decided to stay with poetry. There is a great freedom in poetry, and also poetry is a very particular creature because it's connected to everything. It's connected to the graphic arts. It's connected to theater. It's connected to music. It's connected to performance. So I felt very welcome by poetry. It gave me a lot of options to express what I wanted to say. So I left my attempt to write short stories, and I stayed with poetry.
You made the right choice. What poets influenced you before you started writing poetry in a regular, serious way?
Yeah. My first serious encounter with poetry was with St. John of the Cross, San Juan de la Cruz. It was like a mandatory poet to read when I was in high school. And I remember I read St. John of the Cross. I didn't understand, but he's a mystic poet, so I understood a little bit. But I remember it was like opening a door. I said, there is something here that I don't fully understand. I'm very attracted to it. And I entered this room, and I knew it was a space where I could be for a very long time, for forever. And then there are two American poets that became great influence when I came to California. Walt Whitman and Frank O'Hara. Walt Whitman because he's like, he's a poet it's all poets in one poet, okay, with Walt Whitman. And Frank O'Hara because the way he writes, I think Frank O'Hara gives you permission to write about anything. He's a very liberating poet. It's not quotation marks serious, and I felt a great permission to write after reading Frank O'Hara. So I will say the mystics first, and then Walt Whitman is also a mystic, and Frank O'Hara.
I love all of them. When you sit down to write a poem, what do you focus on? Is it a phrase, an emotion, an idea? What is it that kicks off a poem for you?
Obsession. There's always an obsessive thought, or could be an obsessive line that is spinning in my brain, and then I start with that, but I really don't know where that energy is going. Sometimes I have ideas, I have like a pattern, but many times it doesn't go the way I want. The poem goes its own way. But I think being obsessed with something is part of being an artist, and is helpful. If something is in your brain and you cannot get rid of it, I think it's time for the writer to work with that obsession. Could be a positive obsession, could be also something negative. But I think that obsessive thinking is part of the creative process.
I like that. And, we have a couple minutes left. So would you like to, Mariano, say something about Jeanette's poetry that she read today in like 1 minute? And then Jeanette, something about Mariano in 1 minute.
Jeanette has this, both a very intellectual clarity that I like, but also there's an emotional tone. They are not fully emotional poems, melodramatic poems. They look very clean, very scientific, very intellectual. But underneath there is all these many layers of emotion and many layers of meaning. And I think she does that very well. That combination between being compacted and being expansive.
Jeanette?
Mariano is such an excellent reader. Every time I hear him, I am jealous. I like his poems because they are not ostentatious. They have something to say, and that it is something usually experiential, that there has been some experience behind it. And you're informed of that experience in a way that is very emotional and shows many layers of what is going on with that experience, sometimes through time or through space, and he manages to do this repeatedly with having that gift of being very clear about what is being said, but still being able, and also displaying a writing about things to a depth of covering a great expanse of experience and feelings that can go on with that particular poem. And it's he does it over and over and over and over again. And he's just brilliant at writing poems.
Well said, both of you. And I want to thank you for such a lovely, mesmerizing reading. And both of you have such clarity and precision, which I love. Next Tuesday, we have two wonderful poets with us, Lee Rossi and Doran Robbins, and that will be great. And here's our wonderful director, Jennifer Clymer, to take us home.
Thank you both so much for joining us, and I hope we get to see you both again back here soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.